Welcome to week 3 of the Habit Stacking Challenge. This week we're going to be focusing on your energy levels, keeping them nice and high, exactly where they need to be, and also focusing on your recovery after your exercise sessions as well. So there's lots and lots of different factors that can have an impact, whether positively or negatively, on your energy levels. Obviously, your sleep quality, the total amount of sleep. If you're getting, 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep each night, that certainly needs to increase a little bit. There's lots of other areas from hydration. Gut health is an absolutely huge area right now within the scientific literature and research. Antioxidants, sugar intakes, obviously lots of different micronutrients as well, vitamins and minerals, how active you are on a day-to-day basis. An important one is the total calories. If we're under consuming, our energy levels are generally going to be lower. Also lots and lots of different areas from saturated and trans fat intakes, generally from sort of processed food sources. It could be, donuts and pastries and things like that. Your stress levels, obviously not necessarily a nutrition related example, but at the same time that does potentially have an impact on energy levels. Insufficient protein, you're not going to be recovering for subsequent sessions. Supporting your muscle tissue for recovery. So one of the things that we wanted to do is, obviously there's lots and lots of things here, and to try and target all of those things all at once is going to be very difficult. So we need to keep it nice and simple. Just to let you know, on the micronutrient front and also the fiber intakes and particularly the gut health side of things as well, that's already going to be facilitated massively if you're consistently implementing what we outlined in the previous module, which is having 6 portions of fruit and or veg per day as a minimum, and also having that from lots of different sources. So it's recommended that we get around 30 different sources of different types of fruit and veg per week, which obviously, that can be a little bit difficult, but providing that we're following the advice in the previous module, which was eating a rainbow, having lots of different types of colours of fruit and veg, that's going to massively help you in respect to gut health and obviously lots of different other areas from fibre intakes and those micronutrient intakes as well. So one of the things that we're going to focus on that has a large effect on your energy levels, providing that obviously we're implementing what we've just discussed, is the hydration side of things. It's one of the most neglected areas of nutrition. It's also one of the simplest areas of nutrition to get right. And I suppose it's that simple that I suppose it just gets forgotten about. So we've just got to aim for between 2 and 3 litres of water per day. So if you're exercising regularly, if your exercise sessions are long in duration, if they're intense sessions, let's say you're training really, really hard, you're really maxing out your energy levels in those sessions, it's much more likely that you're going to need closer to that 3 litres of water per day. Also, an obvious one, but something that's sometimes just not taken into consideration, if you're exercising and working out in an environment that's hot and humid, that's also going to require more fluid intakes because your sweat rates are going to be higher. So a nice easy way of doing this is setting a timer throughout the day. So it might be 9 o'clock in the morning, it might be 12, it might be 3, it might be 6, and it might be 9 o'clock at night, let's say. So you've got like a little system that's in place, it's taken care of, you're not having to think about it, it's reminding you on your behalf, it's done for you. And also a really good strategy that we need to have in place in some way, shape or form, doesn't really matter how, but we need to just be able to measure that method as well. So how, let's say you get recommended to have 10 glasses of water per day. It's a lot of glasses of water. How, was it 3 you had in the morning or 4? Was it 4, 5 or 6 that we had between the hours of 12 and 9? So if we just have a nice simple method, so one of the methods that I use, I've ordered a water bottle that's exactly 1 litre. So I know exactly how much water that I need to be consuming each day. So the minimum is 2 litres. So let's say roughly halfway through the day, I need to have consumed a full bottle of that water and be on to my second bottle in that second half of the day. So it's super simple to know exactly where you are. Just to let you know, there's lots of different ways of staying hydrated, but we're going to keep it, for the purpose of this challenge, we're going to keep it nice and simple. Cordial is fine to include. So if you have like a low sugar cordial in the example there on the right hand side, you know, there's some lime and soda there. That's absolutely fine. That all contributes to your hydration. And a lot of people ask questions about caffeine, cups of tea, coffees, things like that, because obviously they can have a diuretic effect. So what we need to do is try and just limit that caffeine intake to between 2 to 4 cups of tea or coffee per day. And also, if they're spread out throughout the day, that helps massively too. So if you have 2 or 3 cups of tea or coffee in the morning, within the first couple of hours, there's a big peak in caffeine intakes there, and that can have an increased likelihood of having that diuretic effect. So we just need to make sure that we're staying consistent with spreading that caffeine out throughout the day if you do have teas and coffees and things like that, and also making sure that you're consuming between 2 and 3 litres of water in total per day, or from other sources like cordial. The cups of tea and coffee can absolutely contribute as well, just providing that it's in and around that number and it's spread out throughout the day too. Step 2, one of the big things is when we're low on energy levels, the first thing we reach for is a sugary snack. This is something that might make you feel fantastic for half an hour and your energy levels increase, but we also have that peak in insulin levels. And when we have that, what normally follows or often follows afterwards is another crash in energy levels. So we just need to try and reduce those sugar intakes so that we're not having them peaks and troughs of sugar intakes throughout the day. If you do consume sugar and you're really partial to a sweet snack and you've got a little bit of a sweet tooth, I do sometimes. I know lots of people that love the sweet snacks too. A really good idea is just to have that before your workouts, because when you have that peak in sugar intakes and then you work out, let's say roughly half an hour later, you're going to be actually utilizing that blood sugar as part of the exercise session. So if you are going to have it, maybe just time it in and around that. Just a quick tip for you there. The rest of the day and the rest of the week, in and around your normal week, try and eliminate or at least reduce it to minimal levels on those sugary intakes. We need to, when it comes to the carbohydrate sources that we're consuming, instead replace that for more complex carbohydrates. So things like pasta, rice, couscous. There's lots of different examples out there. Bread, particularly whole grain sources. Whole grain sources are going to contribute more to the fiber intakes as well. So again, you're getting your fruit and veg where they need to be, at least 6 portions like we discussed before. But another second contribution can be from the carbohydrate sources. If they're brown, whole grain type sources, that further increases that fiber intake as well, and just gives you a little bit of an energy boost consistently over hours, instead of a big massive peak in half an hour, gets digested, and then there's a big trough to follow. So complex carbohydrates just generally take a little bit longer to digest. So focus on those predominantly day to day. Step 3, we're going to focus on recovery from exercise. So this starts in actual fact before your sessions. When we think of recovery from exercise, we think after the exercise has taken place, when in actual fact, excellent recovery from exercise starts well before the actual exercise session takes place. So for example, with hydration, there's loads of studies that show that if you start your exercise in a dehydrated state, this is going to have a significant negative impact on strength outputs, power outputs, also endurance as well. So making sure that you're hydrated before, during, and after your sessions. The only thing that I would say is a little bit less important is the during bit. So if your sessions are 30 to 60 minutes long, it doesn't really matter too much on keeping hydrated during the session. But if it's sort of 60 minutes plus, so let's say maybe you're training for a marathon, you go for long runs at the weekend as a good example, we do need to just make sure that the hydration is kept on top of during that session. Anything that's sort of over and above an hour in duration. So slow carbs, like we've discussed before, anywhere between an hour and a half and 2.5 hours before training sessions. And this is really down to personal preference. Anywhere in that range is fine. When I say personal preference, with me specifically, I don't like eating anywhere near my exercise sessions. I hate the feeling of having food in my stomach personally. Other people can have a great big meal an hour, 30 minutes beforehand, and they feel absolutely fine. And I'm very envious of you if that's you. So yeah, anywhere between that range is absolutely fine, and that's going to help fuel your sessions. Now, after the session, we really need to focus as much as we can on getting a good quality source of protein within 30 minutes of that session finishing. That's an optimal target. It doesn't have to be perfect, and of course we have to make sure that we're factoring in, you know, real life here as well. So something like, for example, a protein shake immediately after the session, that might be something you could just carry in your bag. As soon as you're getting in the car on the way home from your session, you can be having that protein shake, or just beforehand. And then when you get in, you might have sausage casserole for the evening. So there's a really good source of protein in the sausages there, in the whey protein as well, and also a great source of carbohydrates in that sauce that you can see there, and also that bread as well. Lots of different examples. You know, you might want to let's say have some sweet potato mash with this as well, or there's loads of different ways of having a good quality source of carbohydrates. And the aim here is to give protein to facilitate muscular recovery and adaptation and muscular growth. And secondly, to have those carbohydrate intakes so that your glycogen stores are topped back up again. So when you're working out, glycogen or glucose is the primary source of energy within your training sessions. Glycogen is the stored form of that glucose. You're going to be using that glucose during your sessions, so your stores are getting depleted as that exercise session takes place. The primary aim here is to stay hydrated, get that protein intake where it needs to be to facilitate your muscles, and also replenish glycogen stores as soon as we can, ready for the next session in a day or two's time. So nice and simple, this week's habit list: 2 to 3 litres of fluid per day. Reduce those sugar intakes on a day-to-day basis, and if you've had minimal sugar intakes in and around each of those days, you can get a tick in your tracking sheet. And also a recovery meal 30 minutes after exercise, or as close as we possibly can, obviously with the blueprint that we've just outlined there. Excellent source of protein and a good source of complex carbohydrates as well after those exercise sessions. So hopefully that all makes sense. It's very, very simple this week, but also highly effective. Hopefully everything that we've described today makes sense, and it makes you realize how effective these strategies can be, and the simple things often work the best. So all the best of luck with this week. Hope you smash it out the park, and we'll speak to you on the next module.